we starting off with a fight? Is this what you're teeing up here, Alex? Owen and I are just going to fight around whether
we like confrontation. It makes good for entertainment.
That's how we started off.
Yes.
All right. So do you have any rebuttals to that?
Equifax is a partner of yours. You work together, but one of the things that I noticed is that as a past Equifax customer, I paid to get my report, and here I am. I can log into Borrowell. All I want to do is understand my credit score number, but I can get to Borrowell for free. First, it seems like a conflict of interest, and
that would be cool.
You know what? I have an idea for a business that I think this needs to happen. How are you acquiring customers?
Yeah.
That's the most one of the most challenging things right now.
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I can tell you all the mistakes that we made, which included.
Hello and welcome to the Hustle Over Everything podcast. This is the podcast where we receive stories, tips, and tactics from entrepreneurs who have done it to help you grow your business and grow as a person. I'm Alex.
And I'm Owen Osinde.
And today we have a treat for you. You know, I was talking to my cousin, my family and friends, and I was like, yeah, today we're interviewing.
Everyone's excited. Everyone's waiting for this.
Everyone's excited and waiting for it. And I was like, yeah, we're interviewing the COO of this company. And they were like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, so when are you going to interview him? And I was like,
Him? Like,
him.
Are you for real?
You know what I'm saying? And that really showed the bias.
The bias, man.
That's naturally implanted in us that we haven't really touched on, you know? So today I'm sitting here with, like I said, a treat for you. He's sitting here with somebody who is a groundbreaker in tech, you know, who has broken through the mold and created a business that is empowering Canadians financially. We're sitting here with Eva Wong. Eva, how are you?
I'm great. Great to be here.
Most definitely. So first things first, I want to start off with the icebreaker. You know, because one thing you mentioned is entrepreneurship is either built in you or something you can learn and acquire over time. You know, I want to get your opinion too, and of course.
Absolutely, yep.
What do you think? Is entrepreneurship something that's born within you, or something that you can, you know, mature to, grow to, learn? What's your experience been like?
I really believe that entrepreneurship is something that can be learned. Okay. I don't think scientists have yet discovered an entrepreneurship gene or a particular strand of DNA where you have to be born with something. And I really think that anyone who's passionate about solving a problem can start a company and become an entrepreneur.
What do you think, Owen?
I think you're born with certain traits that allow you to be an entrepreneur. I think if you are someone who is you don't like following the rules a lot, you like being on your own and creating things, and you have a wild imagination, and you have like this hunger to really become something and to provide value to it. It's like a certain tenacity that everybody has who makes a great business has these certain qualities. So I think there's certain traits you have that make an entrepreneur, but if you say, I'm going to teach you to be an entrepreneur, you can learn the fundamentals of what entrepreneurship is about. But if you don't have like the mental fortitude, the persistence, the desire, and the hunger to be great, I don't think you're really gonna sustain the journey to build something and see the vision all the way out.
Are we starting off with a fight? Is this what you're teeing up here, Alex? Owen and I are just going to fight around whether
we like confrontation. It makes good for entertainment.
That's how we started off.
Yes.
All right. So do you have any rebuttals to that?
I do. I agree. I think there are certain qualities that you have to have, but I don't know if they're, you know, I think there's so many different combinations of qualities that you could have. I actually think someone who's a rule follower could start a business. You know what I mean? I think like someone who understands the rules, I don't know, like that I might challenge a bit. And I also think that a lot of times you're co-founding a company with a team. And so not any like single person is going to build a company by themselves. You're going to have a team of people that you do this with.
Yes.
And so I think smart founders are going to find other teammates that will complement the skills that they have.
I was going to say, like, a lot of great entrepreneurs were first intrapreneurs. Like great leaders, Steve Ballmer, you know, he was not like the founder of Microsoft, but he became a massive mover of Microsoft from its early days. and increased the value of what Microsoft is. So you have to be like a smart follower. Don't be just like a blind follower and just do it. But you have to like know your strengths. And this kind of goes back to Gary Vee with everything he says, right? There's like this one clip I love of him. It's like, I can't code and you can't sell crap. Meaning like, just because you think you can be a great Python developer doesn't mean that like you can really go out there and do it. Like there's certain talent that you have, and you really have to lean in on that talent to really double in your value.
Yeah.
And then, over time, by doubling in on what you bring, you become that person that you want to be, that's looked at as a number one by your positioning yourself in what you do best at.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I'd also say there's a growth mindset, right? Like, I don't know, I may not be the best salesperson, and maybe I shouldn't try, but maybe I should try. Maybe that is a skill that I could develop. And so, I think that's always the balance is like, who are you today and who do you need to become to be that successful entrepreneur?
Speaking of that, going back into your come up, you're a Harvard graduate student. And this is where a lot of great, these tech guys come from, right?
Yeah.
You either went to Stanford, Harvard, and what's another, like Penn, right? MIT, Princeton. When you're funding a founder, the VCs tend to look at these people as they're going to be great entrepreneurs. And this kind of goes on to what we're saying, great entrepreneurs. So how was your Harvard experience? And you were there around like the time Facebook was starting out. What was the buzz around campus at the time? And, share us more about that time, like when you were back at, part of the Crimson Tide.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if VCs do look for Harvard grads. And I think we've all heard the formula around the value of your company is 10 times the number of engineers you have minus however many MBAs you have. So
No,
I don't have an MBA.
What?
Yeah. No, that's a thing.
Really?
I actually didn't do an MBA. I studied international development actually at the Kennedy School. And it was a great experience. I really enjoyed my experience there. I really felt like the students that I was with didn't have that sense of entitlement, which was what I was a little bit worried about. Everyone really just felt this great sense of privilege to be, part of the story and become part of the history. And it's definitely a place that's bigger than any one person. So I just felt like a great sense of privilege being able to be there. And it really impacted me, I think, in a couple ways. One is I really felt like I needed to give back because someone had invested in me to have this great experience.
Yeah.
And the second that I think we'll maybe chat a bit about, because I think imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people feel, is I could always say it's like, well, I did get into Harvard, so I can't be like, it's like one of those things that you could look back on. Maybe it was a mistake, but I did sort of feel like I was there, and I wasn't the dumbest person there. So
I've always been curious, right? Like when you say you're a Harvard grad, this adds a lot of, it brings a lot of cachet with it. So, just having fun. You're like, when you walk in, hey, like, where'd you go? Oh, I went to Harvard. Like, what are the type of faces you get? And like, do you ever get tired of having that feeling of, is it as a novelty worn off, or is it just part of the game now? How do you deal with that?
So there's a bit of a joke that people who went to Harvard will never say they went to Harvard.
Really?
Yeah, because I do think it's also called dropping the H-bomb. Like it is, I don't know. I think people just assume a lot of things that may not be true.
Yeah.
So some of the code words to know that someone has gone to Harvard without saying they've gone to Harvard are, I went to school in Boston, I was in Cambridge, but people will usually not say they went to Harvard.
Damn.
There's a bit of like a pompous like essence that comes with saying it's like I went to Harvard.
Yeah.
I think
that's what you're talking about,
part
right?
of it. Yeah.
Got you.
There's a lot of tech humor. People, they make these skits of like people who went to like HBA, and then like, like we did a class together like HBA, a couple of years back. Like no big deal. Like they just like dash it in there and like they cover it up and then keep it talking, just to like, hey, like this is where I'm at. Just so talk to me nice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So after Harvard, what was the next step for you?
So I came back to Toronto and I worked at Maple Leaf Foods actually in their global, they had an international business and I was in a global business development role. And the reason for that is that I studied the intersection between business and emerging markets. And I was really excited about working for a company that was investing in emerging markets and had business in emerging markets. So I had done some work. One of the cool things I was able to do is I did an internship between my first and second years at the UN. So I worked for the United Nations Development Program. But I was much more excited about being a business that was making decisions as opposed to organizing a conference or writing a paper about companies that were doing cool things.
Yeah.
So I think I realized I was much more excited about being an operator than, someone who is on the either academic or not-for-profit side.
That's a fact. And you got into not-for-profit side, right? What's that like, switching from working in a regular work environment, corporate 9 to 5, to getting into the not-for-profit side?
Yeah, in some ways, I think a lot of people might be surprised that there's not that many differences between for-profit and not-for-profit. If you're an accountant, you're still doing accounting, whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes the day-to-day isn't that different. But I do think one of the nice things is that you're working with people who are really motivated by the mission. And in that way, I think being in a not-for-profit is very similar to being at a startup.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I think is very key, because a lot of people just say, hey, I'm going in, clocking in, and I'm clocking out, and I'm getting my ass home.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas a not-for-profit is like a real mission behind it. They're trying to do, whether it be like helping kids out, helping a specific mission out. Yeah. And that really helps you drive it, because like sometimes when you're at work and you have that little microaggression that gets to you, it's like, you're ready to go. Like, why am I really?
It makes sense to have a purpose that you wake up to. Like, you know what? I'm doing this because of this. And that's what I find with a lot of people who work in not-for-profit space. And so giving us a timeline from like your graduation to working to entrepreneurship, in those times when you're doing not-for-profit and you're doing consulting, did you ever consider being an entrepreneur? Like, did you ever look at that idea as something to pursue?
I did, but I would say it was always off to the side, like how people talk about wanting to quit their job and travel the world for a year. Do you know what I mean? I think I did an undergrad in business, and so I was around a lot of people who are interested in business, and we talked about it. It's like, okay, well, one day when we start a company together, but it didn't really go much farther than that. So I think I'm a bit surprised to find myself here. I wouldn't necessarily have put myself as a natural entrepreneur to reference, the conversation we had earlier. I don't think I was really that person, the kid who had a lemonade stand or anything like that. I don't know. I grew up really like not around that many entrepreneurs and not around that many people who'd started businesses. So for me, it was really important that I went to school, that I could get a job afterwards and pay off my student loans. To me, being an entrepreneur felt like, something other people did, not people like me.
So you never even like had like a moment where you're jotting like notes or doing sketches of an idea on a napkin? You know how they always have like people have like this napkin folders of like ideas they had. You never had one of those?
I guess I did. Do you know what? So if I go back, there were different points in my life where I thought about different businesses that I wanted to start. So yeah, I guess it was always there.
What'd you want to start?
Yeah.
I wanted to start a food business, actually.
Really?
I was like really interested in food and how to make cooking food more accessible. It was actually pretty similar to a lot of these meal kit ideas now that have become very prevalent. But this was, back maybe 15 years ago that I thought would be cool.
You know what? I have an idea for a business that I think this needs to happen. An egg subscription business.
I also have a subscription idea. So
okay.
You know what I'm talking about. Don't tell us.
All right. How many times do you eat eggs in a week?
I eat eggs 2 times a day.
2 times a day?
No. Like I eat 2 eggs a day.
I was about to say eggs twice. You're going crazy. All right.
I need that protein, man. I need that protein.
Facts. Yeah, same. 2 eggs a day. How about you?
I'm a big egg consumer too, and I do find I run out of eggs a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
How much eggs you eat? One every 2 days.
Yeah. Dion?
0 eggs. All right, one person. Look at that. 1 out of 5 people eat 0 eggs. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, listen, an egg subscription service.
I'd subscribe to that.
$20 a month? How you mean?
How many crates are you getting?
Oh, I'm going crazy.
The 36? So 36 a week, like
36 a week.
36
Easy.
a week.
I'm going crazy on eggs. Delivered straight to your door.
Oh man, I'd pay for that.
I'm worried about the waste, the breakage in this model, literal breakage.
The packaging has to be elite.
The package has to be elite.
Has to be proper, you know?
Probably like thick plastic, I'm thinking. Yeah. No, see, the challenge here is the weight. That's what they have learned in e-commerce. weight is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to ship properly, the weight is everything. People will have glass bottles and have to switch to plastic just because of the weight. So that's the only thing that I think would be tough is the breakage of the eggs and getting them too. But look, if the eggs can go to a grocery store, they can get to a house.
That's true. That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm feeling this idea. I'm definitely a customer.
All right, what you got?
My idea is similar to Alex's. We're looking at foods that people eat every day, and that's an avocado subscription business. I mean, think about everybody who likes guac. I like guac. I just had a Super Bowl party like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Had massive bowl of guac. I would pay for getting avocados like every single week to my door. You eat them with eggs, you eat them with everything, and they're like at such a premium price in the grocery store. So if you give it someone at a lesser cost, and they're fresh at the door, that's a good business. What do you think about that?
I want to know if there's a ripeness guarantee, because I feel like with avocados, they're like not ripe, and then it's like you have to throw them out.
Yo, so do you hear about this? There's a TikTok trend. I'm so excited about this.
I know, Joe.
I'm so excited. Yo, so apparently if you put avocados in water and let them soak, they don't go bad.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
But how long do you leave them on the water for?
So you put them in the water and you put them in the fridge, and they stay fresh for like 10 times the time.
Does temperature matter?
No, it was a fridge.
Oh, I mean, like in the water, like is it hot water, like cold water, or just
room temperature water?
Room temperature.
Yeah. Put it
That's
in
a hack.
there, and just let it sit and it will maintain its freshness.
My mom, who is a big TikTok person, said plastic bag once the avocado is ripe, put it in a plastic bag and then put it in the fridge. So maybe we should do a little bit of testing.
Like a
little A/B test.
Yeah.
A/B testing,
water
split testing.
in plastic bag. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm up for it.
Right.
Word. So let's jump ahead a bit. So we talked about you in the not-for-profit space. Now let's talk more about you getting into Borrowell. Because if I'm not mistaken, from doing a little bit of back research, you were pregnant at the time when you just got started?
I was on maternity leave.
You were on maternity leave.
Yeah, I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
You had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and you were on maternity leave. So you're about to have the kid, right?
I had the kid.
You had the kid. Sorry, is that how it goes?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought
you have the kid, and
I'm
then
so
and
crazy.
then you cut from maternity leave.
Got you.
How long is maternity leave, by the way? Is that like 6 months?
6 months?
So you can take as little or as long a time as you want. I think in Canada you can take up to 18 months now. I took about a year.
A year off.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
But it's not, I mean, it maybe sounds like a break. It is so much hard work.
It's like another job.
Yeah.
But it's a loving job, though.
One that you don't get paid for, where your colleagues, quote unquote, could throw up on you and expect you to clean their diapers.
Clean it up.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, that kid needs a job.
Eating for free,
It's a real
doesn't pay
job.
rent.
Yeah. So walk us through that time of your life where you were on maternity leave and somehow ended up at Borrowell.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat about that. So my co-founder, Andrew, had quit his job about 6 months before I joined and was exploring different ideas in fintech. And his background, he had been running the insurance business at PC Financial and saw that the credit card business just made a killing every single quarter. And so he was really curious about how do credit cards work and, why do they make so much money? And realized that credit card debt is a huge problem. Consumer debt in general is a huge problem in Canada. And I think at the time it was, $60 billion of credit card debt that the Canadians held.
60 billion.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy number.
Wow.
So he was looking around the world to see, what's happening in fintech in other places that, and other ideas that could be applied in Canada. And one of them was, that at the time, a lot of people were doing personal loans online to help people refinance
And
debt.
for context, what year is this?
So this is 2014.
2014, got you.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then he was telling me about the idea. I thought it was super cool. I was sort of looking for my next thing. And I made a bit of a flippant comment to say, well, if I can't find another job, I'll just come and join your startup. And I expected him to laugh it off. And he didn't. He got pretty serious, looked me in the eye and said, well, what would you want to do? And again, I'm sort of being like, I don't know. What do you need done? I'm happy to do whatever. And he said, well, do you know what? I need to practice my pitch. Why don't I come, give you the pitch, and you can decide what you want to do from there.
Gotcha.
So he pitched me on Borrowell, and I was really taken because it was both solving a big social problem, which I cared about, as well as it sounded like the opportunity to build a really big business as well. And I think those two things made it seem super exciting. And after the pitch, I was like, why don't I just come and work for you for free for a couple of weeks? I was like really excited to get out of the house because I'd been home with two young kids for like 10, 11 months. And at that early stage in a company, you take as much free labor as you can get.
Yeah.
So that's where it started out, is with 2 weeks that turned into 3 months, and it's turned into 7.5 years.
Is that a hack? Yeah, we should use, like, look out for women on maternity leave.
Honestly, you should look out for women on maternity leave, because I think they're super eager to work. I had such a low bar when I got there. It was like, A, no one follows me to the bathroom.
Yeah.
B, I don't have to feed anyone lunch. I can just eat my own food.
Exactly.
And I could have adult conversations and no one's going to throw up on me. So, the bar is pretty low, I think, for any parent who's been on parental leave.
And what was like the MVP that he showed you? Like, were you just sold on the idea of what the whole concept was? Or did he show you like, hey, this is like a working prototype that we have?
I don't think there was an MVP. Even the pitch didn't have like the product necessarily in like a prototype form, but I think it was just the fact that it was such a big problem and felt like there needed to be better solutions than what existed.
So how did he convince you to stay? Actually, no, because when you start getting like enwrapped into the company, right, and you're on maternity leave, were you at the point of looking for a new job at this point? Or were you just like, I'm still feeling it out? Like, and how'd you break that to the family as well? Because maternity leave is still like trying to take care of the kid and stuff like that. How do you break that to your husband? And, like, walk us through that time. That could be a troublesome time.
He was super supportive. I was planning on going back to my job that I had before.
Okay.
So it really was just, hey, I'm going to defer that. It wasn't something that I was super, super excited about doing, because I'd been there already for 5 years. So I was sort of looking for the next thing.
Got you.
And a lot of people say, oh, it's like so risky that you sort of took this leap. I think there are a couple things. One is that I was on maternity leave, so it's not like I was making a huge amount of income that I was walking away from. I actually didn't have to walk in and sort of quit my job. I just said, hey, I'm not coming back. And my employer at the time was super kind and said, hey, if you do want to come back, like, let us know if this thing doesn't work out.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
And then I also felt very much like if this didn't work out, I would just get a job. Do you know what I mean? I didn't feel like if I'd failed at a startup, it would somehow make me unemployable.
Yeah.
If anything, it makes you more employable because you've learned a whole bunch.
Exactly.
So, and maybe it was that I felt like I could fall back on my degree, but it's like, I think I could just get a job.
Like, it's once you have like the experience you have, the education you have, there's really nothing to worry about at that point.
Yeah.
You already had the support of your husband.
Yeah.
You knew Andrew. Like, everything was just connected, and there's no point of looking back even if it failed, because you can just maybe go do another startup and try another idea. It must have like not have been just it's either Borrowell or die trying, right?
Yeah.
You have options.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I would argue that most people have options, right? It's and I think the learning is so great that if you can sort of afford to go without the salary that you would normally have. And I think, obviously we were fortunate, and I was a bit later in my career. We'd paid off my student loans and things like that. But we also made pretty intentional choices to, not live a lavish lifestyle. We didn't have huge expenses. My husband, didn't make a ton of money. He was working for a not-for-profit at the time, but we just, kept things pretty simple.
Got you. So now let's get into my favorite part, the marketing, the growth phase.
The growth phase.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you know, but I have a marketing agency. That's my thing,
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. During that time period, it's like 5 of you in the room, trying to figure it out. How are you acquiring customers?
Yeah.
That's the most, like, one of the most challenging things right now.
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I can tell you all the mistakes that we made, which included spending too much money on Google AdWords without, I think, testing enough into it. So at the beginning, it was really pretty focused on digital channels, so Google and Facebook. And again, the first product that we had was the personal loan. And what we found was we actually had a ton of people come to us. The problem was that very few of them were qualifying for the loan that we had out there. And back in 2014, I sort of, like, in online loans in 2014 to what online dating must have been in like 1999.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's not mainstream. So the only people who are there are really weird and desperate. And I think with online loans, it was really like a lot of people just looking for payday loans. Which, we were offering a prime loan that had low interest rates, and people who could qualify for a loan at a bank weren't looking online for loans. And so that, I think, was challenging for us. And eventually, this is what led us to launching free credit scores. Was a way, actually, to solve a marketing and a customer acquisition problem. We wanted to find people who had good credit scores, and so we're like, okay, well, what could we do? We looked again, what do other companies like ours do around the world? And a lot of leads for personal loan products came from these marketplaces that offered credit education.
Yeah. So your product is, even before asking the question, just for like our listeners understanding what Borrowell is today, what is that like, that elevator pitch, so they understand what we're talking about before even going deeper into marketing and all the nitty gritties and stuff like that?
That's a great question. So Borrowell's mission is to make financial prosperity possible for everyone. And we do that a few different ways. We were the first company to offer credit scores for free in Canada. And we offer lots of tips and advice to help people improve their score. We also offer product recommendations to help people pick the best financial products for where they are. And as we help people improve their score, we've got a credit building loan product and secured credit card products that can help people accelerate the process of building their credit profile. But what really people want eventually is to do things like be able to pay off some debt. And, it's easier to do that if you're paying lower interest rates. So as your credit score improves, we can offer you loans that have lower interest rates. A lot of people have a goal of wanting to buy a home at one point. So, it's like helping people to qualify for a mortgage. Gotcha. So, so we offer today a really personalized marketplace that helps people understand the products that they're going to be approved for, and also make it super easy for people to get those products. So we do lots of super great integrations that make it very easy for you to understand your likelihood of approval for a product, and then in a couple of clicks actually find out if you're approved.
Actually, I got a story for you. I got one of my credit cards, my American Express Simply Cash, from Borrowell, actually.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you.
So I gotta give you credit. I gotta pay homage for that. I was just on it. I was just looking. I was like, hey, get this thing, Simply Cash. I already had an American Express Cobalt card, but I didn't know about the Simply Cash. So I just went through Borrowell and I got my card through that. So I was just like, this is nice. This is nice. So Eva, I was saying, right? Equifax is a partner of yours. You work together, but one of the things that I noticed is that as a past Equifax customer, I paid to get my report, and here I am. I can log into Borrowell. All I wanted to do was understand my credit score number, but I can get to Borrowell for free. First, it seems like a conflict of interest, and tell us why it's not, and how did that partnership formulate?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and in many ways, Equifax had to make the decision to cannibalize a little bit of their sales in order to work with us. I guess one thing to recognize for Equifax is that what they sell to consumers is a relatively small part of their business.
Gotcha.
Most of their business is selling data to financial institutions, banks, like not just data, but selling different data services. And so what they sell to consumers is relatively small. I think the other thing is that the percentage of the population that will pay to get their credit score and credit report is relatively small compared to the number of people who will do it if they get it for free. And so even though we would pay less than what you would have to pay, because we have so many people getting that credit data, it makes sense for Equifax. So we've become quite a large customer for them. And I think it was, smart of them to recognize that even though in the short term it might be painful and might mean that some people, there might be fewer people who sort of pay for the service, in the long run, it's like worked out pretty well for them because we've become a really big customer.
Yeah.
One step back to go 10 steps forward.
That's how you play the game.
Yeah.
So you're getting customers in now. One thing that stands out to me as it must be a pivotal moment for you is being a group of 4, 5, 6 people and approaching a bank
Yeah.
to do business.
Yeah.
Walk us through that, because I can only imagine you feeling like you're going against a kraken to get this business done.
Yeah,
Like, walk us through your
yeah,
first
I
time.
think that's right, because you're referencing we had a partnership with a bank, and even to work with Equifax, which is a big company,
Very big company.
we were pretty small, and yeah, I think we're literally like 5-6 people. I think the one thing for everyone to remember is that you really just have to convince one person. Do you mean, as big and as scary as the bank or as a credit bureau is, you do just have to convince one person. It has to be the right person.
Yeah.
But someone who's willing to go to bat and says, I'm going to make this happen. And if the right person says, I'm going to make this happen, then that really paves the way. Not to say that it isn't a long process or that there aren't lots of hoops to jump through. But I think for us in each of those situations, there was one person on the other side who really believed in us for whatever reason. And that was super helpful.
What bank was this?
It was with CIBC.
CIBC.
Yeah.
And now, like, acquiring other banks has become like way easier now over time, right?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's been funny because some banks or financial institutions, it takes months and months and years in some cases to bring them on board. But now we have every major bank on our platform.
So we'll break that down. Like, when I feel like that pitch must have been like a monumental moment for the company. Were you there? Were you there in that pitch? Like, what were some of the pivotal moments that you saw?
Who was pitching? Did you like?
Yeah,
Who was
like,
like? Was it like a Don Draper
what I'm saying?
pitching?
Like, I feel like you're going into war at that moment. Like,
It's super interesting because I guess there's a couple of things. We did a partnership with CIBC, but then in terms of getting people onto our platform, it really is just being relentless. I mean, I'm sure this isn't news to any of you or any of your listeners. But for us, within the bank, I feel like 80% of the challenge was finding the right person. That if you went to senior, it wasn't a problem that they were dealing with. If you go to junior, they don't care, or you don't find the right person. But when we found the person who was responsible for credit card acquisition, and what they needed to do was like get more credit card customers, and we had this new solution for them. I remember one person saying, they were relying on like a Reader's Digest list and like calling people. So, it's like they're getting really,
Sounds archaic.
like niche, I know, and archaic. So when we said, hey, we've got this platform of however many, tens of thousands of people at the time, today we're over 2 million. And we're saying, hey, we've got people who are looking for financial products. We can email them, we can put you on the platform, and we made it really easy for them too. It's like, literally, if you give us a link and, essentially all we need is a tracking link. We would often say we just need like the asset, like we need the picture of the credit card, but you could find that and just like copy it. We're like, we just need a tracking link, and then we'll put you up. It's like not that hard.
Yeah.
We made the integration pretty easy for them too.
So there's some big lessons there. So one, find the right person.
Yeah.
And make it as easy as it can be for them to sign on to the process.
Yeah.
No, I know that. I know that grind about finding the right person because I work in sales.
Yeah.
And you're using all the tools that you have, like whether it's Sales Navigator, having these conversations, doing cold calls, talking. Someone likes you, what you got to say. Now you got to get them to connect you with this other person.
Yeah.
It takes a long process, but once you get that person, it's money.
Yeah.
And they like you, but it takes a while, right? And you as a person who's reaching out, you got to be really patient with everything, that whole process that you really want to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And that leads to the next question. Like, how long was that process for the whole company? Like, was it like from opening the dialogue to closing? How long did it take to close the business?
I mean, it really varied from partner to partner. And I'm not joking when I say that some of them, it was years.
Years, eh?
Yeah, years to get someone on the platform.
What?
Because you would have a conversation and they'd be excited, but then it needs to, we might have to go through info security through the bank and get approved as a vendor. And so some of these processes took huge amounts of time. There might be a site visit. They would come, inspect what kind of shredder you use. Like, it was
what?
Shredder?
Yeah,
Paper
they wanted to
shredder.
make sure that the paper shredder we had, in case we printed any sensitive documents,
Wow.
would shred. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Some of these
Shredder.
like documents. I mean, again, as a small company, it was they asked us our policy on like conflict minerals. It's like we don't purchase or sell blood diamonds. Like, I'm not sure. It's just like, you can understand how, someone deep in their supply chain would say, hey, this is an issue. We need to make sure we don't work with anyone who does X. And then all of a sudden you're trying to become a supplier of the bank and you have to provide your, conflict mineral policy.
Yo, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yo,
Lots of funny stories like that. We could spend all night.
Really?
Yeah, going over some of these things.
That's crazy. All right. So that's so interesting. Now let's move on. You start developing the business and you start acquiring banks to join credit card companies. What was the product market fit when it comes to the acquisition that helped you scale? It was only the credit card, the credit ratings. Is that the only thing that made you scale? And is that still what's helping you scale today? Or is there other platforms that's helped?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we found out was that the product market fit felt like a lot easier with credit score monitoring than it did when we started out with loans.
Yeah.
So
How long? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. No
how long was that process between doing the loans and then figuring out that the ratings was?
Yeah, it was about a year, actually.
Okay. That's not that long. That's okay.
Yeah, maybe.
It was a long year.
It felt
a long year.
It felt like a long year.
It's a long year. Yeah.
But you're right. Like it was, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't that long. And once we launched credit scores, I think we realized that, there's something here.
Yeah.
Because today we offer a full credit score and credit report. It gets updated on a weekly basis. But at the very beginning, we only offered the score, not the report, and we only offered it like once every 3 months. So we started out with a real MVP. We knew that eventually we would want to do much more, but it's like, let's just see if there's anything in here. Are people interested in seeing what their credit score is? And who are these people? Like, why are they interested? What do they, want to know for? But in that first week, we had like thousands of people sign up. So it was pretty exciting for us to be like, it just sort of felt a little bit more like, this is what product market fit feels like. You put something out that's very far from perfect, but there's lots of people who are interested in it and telling their friends about it.
Yeah. And also too, like credit scores before Borrowell. I remember my roommate at the time when I was at Ryerson, I was like, man, I need to my credit score because I'm going to start like looking for a place, and going to Equifax or TransUnion. It seems so daunting. It seems like it's like this big brother type of energy. It's like dealing with a corporate, but Borrowell was like so easy. It's friendly. It's like kind of like with the Ubers, you just download, this is how you do it. How did you get people to trust you, like people like Alex and I, to go put in our information and believe that this is the right data and information, and the fact that I'm giving this information, that it's going to be in good hands?
We understood early on that trust was really, really important, that people needed to trust who we were. So we were upfront about like all the bank level security that we had and, took all that very seriously. I think we also wanted to project that, that sort of image of trust, even through the name. Like when we were picking names for Borrowell, we'd ask people what, we had a whole bunch of different names, and we asked people like, what does this make you think of? And for Borrowell, it was actually things like law firm or like old English town. And so it felt like it maybe had a bit more gravitas than some names that, had lots of vowels and, misspelled words. I guess Borrowell is also 2 misspelled words. But we were just very, very careful in the language that we used. We tried to be, really professional but friendly. I think there's a lot of things we could have done. I mean, this is up your world in terms of like, what's the brand and what's the tone? We wanted to be, that friend that is good at their personal finances, but you could still have a beer with. Do you know what I mean? And actually, as we asked people if Borrowell were a person, what would they be like? That's some of the things that we heard. We didn't want to sort of be too fast and loose. We were very careful to like proofread our website and make sure there were no spelling mistakes. I think there's a bunch of things like that we really tried to show people we were a real company backed by real people. Yeah,
because like in startup world, it's just like, what's that thing they always say? Build fast, crash and burn.
Move fast, break things.
Move fast and break things. I'm like, I think you need to like sometimes take a pause for the cause and actually just analyze. Are we really moving in the right direction before pressing the green button?
We actually did print out something that said like, move fast and please try not to break anything.
I hear that. What were some of the losers in the name category? You remember any?
Collabra, I think, was one.
Oh God.
Well, what was really funny is we paid a company like not that much money. I think it was slightly more than Fiverr. maybe it was like $150. And some of the names they came back with, one of them was Grand Scheme Financial.
Oh my.
I don't know if they understood what a scheme was, and maybe they were too much into
Money
car racing
heist
video
or something
games
like
or
that.
something like that. So that was definitely not one that we were going to use.
Yikes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into credit for a second, because that's the name of the game that we're talking about today. What are some common mistakes that you see people do with their credit, that stands out to you?
Yeah. I think one common mistake is that people are scared that their credit will be bad, so they don't want to check it. And it's one of those things where Oscar,
Yeah.
put your head in the sand. If I don't know, then
it won't hurt me.
It does, yeah, which is not true actually. If it's bad, it will still hurt you. So one of the things I like to share is that the majority of people have good credit. And if you don't have good credit, there are actually things you can do to improve your credit. So I think it's much better to find out, and then you can work to improve things before you're applying for a mortgage, because that's not when you want to find out that your credit score is maybe not as good as it should be.
Yeah, it's gonna be too late at that point.
Yeah, I remember actually when I joined Borrowell, I had no credit at all, and I was trying to get a phone from Virgin, and they're like, "Hey, do you have like a credit card?" And I was like, "No, I don't." So I think they did like a soft check on me. And actually having no credit, it's like having like bad credit at the same time, because like you had no trust. So I had to get like a security, Capital One secured card from Borrowell. It was like $300. Spent a whole year building my credit. I had my Netflix, Spotify in there. Paid it off. Credit score shot up to like 770 or 750. Then over time I've just been very like passionate about it's like a fun thing for me to build on my credit, and it's fun when you log onto Borrowell and you see, oh, like I'm about to I'm touching 800 now, right? What can I do to like get this higher and higher? So my goal is to like get to like 810, 820, and hopefully get to like, maybe, is it 900?
So 900 is a theoretical max, but with the Equifax score we give out, there actually aren't any people who have a 900. So
What's the highest you've
It's a
seen?
good question. I think because our database obviously has, is pretty representative. I don't know 100%. My guess is it's like an 862 or something like that.
862, eh?
The actual highest, which is, I mean, honestly, like where you're at today, you'll be able to qualify for anything you want to.
Yeah.
It just becomes a fun game for some people to try to get as high a score as possible. Actually, I'd say that's another misconception. I think a lot of people who are, afraid about getting into credit card debt think that using a credit card is bad. But it's not if you use it responsibly, and it actually can be a good way to, get points or get cash back and to build a credit score. Because again, that day that you want to go get a mortgage, that lender wants to know that you've been able to manage credit and make payments and manage that responsibly.
Yeah. Shout out to the Budgetista. One thing that's always stuck with me is the utilization rate.
Oh
my
geez.
You guys are experts.
Hell no.
We know our stuff.
Hell no. No, we are not.
Experts.
That's the only thing that's really helped is that utilization rate. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That 20%, 30%.
Yeah.
What has helped you in your credit card, journey?
Yeah, that's one thing for sure. I would say one thing that has not helped is that because of my role, I end up applying for a lot of products just to like try things out.
You get all the marketing, so you're like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe I should try
a little
that.
bit of that, and also it's like, oh, I should just try this out to understand like what the product is like.
Yes.
So I probably apply for more products than a normal person would.
I'm the same thing,
Yeah.
For me, with podcasts, I'm like, listen, I gotta listen to podcasts, so I'm listening to everything under the sun. I'm listening to everything from Joe Rogan to Fresh and Fit, and I'm like, listen, I can't be watching this
You're a
stuff.
student of the game, man.
Student of the game.
Student of the
That's
game,
what you're doing.
bro,
You're student of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You about to?
I was gonna change topics, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna change topics as well.
I actually want to know, like, what are some of the things you do outside of work? Like, what are some of your
Yes.
passions and hobbies?
Yeah. So I mentioned before that I really like food. I still like to cook a lot and bake. And then if you check out my Instagram, Eva, I think it's Eva_Toronto, or maybe just Eva Toronto, I post a lot of baking shots. So that's fun.
What's your your craving? Like, what is something, if I make you're like, oh my gosh, you made this?
I'm a big fan of bread. So bread is good. And the only thing better than bread is fried bread. So I would say
Fried
like
bread.
donuts or anything
Oh,
that
okay, got you.
is in that.
You know who would be a great person to ask is your children, like what they're this will let us know what your top baking or something to make is, because kids always like keep it real with you. They'll be like,
yeah, that's true.
I love this. Oh, like you tell them I'm baking this, you see how they react. It's oh my god, mommy's making this, whatever.
So they're big fans of chocolate chip cookies.
Yes,
because we make like a giant chocolate chip cookie that's 5 inches across. So that is a favorite. And then donuts actually are a favorite as well.
You guys make donuts at home?
Yeah, we will make donuts at home filled with pastry cream or like Nutella and stuff like that. So those are pretty popular.
So
yeah, you guys coming over for breakfast this weekend?
Let's do it.
Come over for a cookie fest.
Yeah,
I got a bomb snack that I make. You know what I'm
eh?
saying? I got this is my thing right here, because we just got an air fryer. You know, and I've been going like ham on the air fryer.
Abuse, no excuse, man.
You have an air fryer?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of appliances.
Yeah, I had a feeling that like she'd have a lot of appliances.
Your kitchen is probably decked out with so many like cool appliances to use.
Too many.
What's the appliance that you know is like over unnecessary but you love it?
That's a good question. I was really nervous about buying a waffle iron because that feels like the kind of thing that never gets used. But we used the waffle iron a good amount, so I don't regret that.
I took my girl to Niagara Falls for our anniversary, and we took a waffle. Okay,
that is next level. When you travel with your waffle iron,
we travel with the waffle iron just to make sure that she could have a
That's
waffle.
That's a commitment you are committed. You are.
I have to make sure she got
give her go for an experience.
And thing is too is that in some hotels you don't get a microwave, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we were warming up food on the waffle maker.
No man, respects to that, bro. Respects, bro.
You feel me?
Yeah.
All right, so working towards wrapping up. You know what I'm saying? Oh, actually, no. You don't have to ask a question.
Yeah, you know, I want to ask you. You know, like you're big on leadership a lot. Things that you talk about is, you know, becoming a leader, especially you as like a woman leader in tech. You know, what are some things that about leadership that we always hear that you'd like to debunk from your experience being a leader at Borrowell so far?
Yeah, I think one of the sort of stereotypes out there is that you have to create like a ton of stress and be this like crazy maniac in order to get good results from people. I think Steve Jobs is like one of those examples, like Elon Musk a little bit. You know, you have to be that like crazy super visionary person and stress people out in order for them to do their best work. And I'm just not sure that's true. I think there's lots of, you know, brain research and science that would say that when people are stressed, that's actually not when they do their most creative work. But I think being very clear and providing like clarity of vision is important for sure. And I think those like leaders do that as well. And I love the fact that they're super aspirational and you know, have break the mold. I just don't know that, you know, everyone needs to create that kind of more hostile work environment in order for people to thrive.
Your whole career, you were in consulting, not-for-profit. Then Andrew comes and asks you, hey, join my team, puts the COO label on you. Did you ever feel imposter syndrome of never being in a leadership position from, as far as we know right now, to being like a leader of like a fast-growing tech company?
For sure. I think imposter syndrome affects a lot of people, and I'm not immune from it either. I do think it was helpful that when I was COO, it was still like a 5-person company. So, you know, it was a little bit of an inflated title.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't have the right experience to be here. And one of the things that was helpful for me is even looking at someone like a Mark Zuckerberg, it's like, why do people feel like a 20-year-old college dropout could found a tech company? And that feels very normal to all of us. But a 35-year-old woman who's got 10 plus years of career experience couldn't do this. Do you know what I mean? Just like doesn't seem to make logical sense.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's not about, you know, discounting your own ability or like discounting someone else's ability. It's more just like, look, we all have a fair shake at this. Everyone brings something different to the table. And I do think it's important for people to see it in order to be it. Like I've been very encouraged to see other people, other women, other people of color lead and lead in their own way and be really authentic about their own leadership style. And that's always been really encouraging to me. Like, oh, I could be that kind of leader. I don't have to be the Steve Jobs kind of leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to dive deeper into being like a woman in tech. Because one thing, like, researching you, it's been like a big proponent of something that you've established for your own brand, What has been your experience as a woman in tech? And where do you see opportunities for women in tech to grow?
Yeah, I would say overall it's been very positive for me being a woman in tech. And I really want to encourage other women and people from underrepresented groups to think about it. I think the community in Toronto is so supportive.
Mhm.
And there's also benefits that I think people don't recognize from maybe looking a bit different from everybody else. People
Mhm.
remember you more often, right? I think a lot of times I've had more opportunities because people want a different perspective on a panel or want to hear from someone who, again, maybe has a different background on the speaker circuit. So I would say I've gotten more than my fair share of opportunities because I have a different background.
Mhm. When did you start realizing that was a strength than a weakness?
It's a good question because I think on the flip side, you can, it was always, oh, they're just asking me because they need a woman on this panel, or they're just
Yeah.
asking me because they need to hit some sort of diversity quota. So I think it's always a double-edged sword. And I think, enough people have said it's not just because of that. There's other reasons as well. And I mean, in some cases, it doesn't matter, right? Like, take the opportunities that are given to you. Not everyone deserves all the opportunities they're given, and you just make the most of what you're given. I think that's sort of what our responsibility is.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. So looking towards the future, of course, I don't know if you can say where the company's going in the future, but what are some of the ways you're looking to acquire new customers in the future? With TikTok being huge now, and like you said, you acquire most of your clients through Facebook, and Facebook's going through a huge change right now.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing? Because you were leading the marketing, right? But
I was at one point. I don't anymore. I haven't for a few years.
Okay.
And Facebook was in the early days. Today we have a much more diverse mix, but we are on TikTok. So check out Borrowell on TikTok if you want to see what's happening there.
Some good financial content.
Yeah, there's some good financial content.
Bet.
I think for us, like, what the next step is for us is really becoming that mass market brand. And I think we've tried to be very efficient in the use of our marketing dollars and doing anything that is more brand oriented, like, giant billboards or even TV commercials feels like it's harder to track. And but again, I think if we want to build that brand, it's really important for us. So that will probably be the next step for us, is like, how do we go bigger and take some more risks and take some more bets around some of that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So like a Super Bowl commercial you're talking about?
Super Bowl commercial would be awesome. Super Bowl commercial would be awesome. Maybe
Okay.
Canadian Super Bowl commercial.
What
CFL championship.
Yeah.
Stop playing with us. Let's keep it a buck. We ain't watching Super Bowl. I mean, the Canadian Bowl like that. What is a Canadian Super Bowl? In relativity, like, what would be?
Man, any Leafs game, like any Leafs playoff game is like the Super Bowl. Take it in. Like, the Leafs, like, they suck, but we treat them as if they are like the Patriots or the Cowboys. Like, come on. They're the Cowboys of hockey.
Nah, you know what it was? I think the closest thing we had to the Super Bowl was the Raptors finals.
I was going to say that. NBA
Yeah.
championships, right?
NBA
When
championships.
the Raptors make the finals.
But-
the whole country's watching.
But you don't know if they're gonna do that every single year, though.
It's true.
That's true. That's
But
true.
you don't know who's going to make the Super Bowl.
Well, at least you know there's a Super Bowl
There
that
is a Super Bowl.
exists.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I'm talking about Canadian.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Good
right?
question.
Got you. So I guess, like, Raptors, when they win, is our Super Bowl, and then hockey, maybe Blue Jays. Our Super Bowl is whoever makes it far enough. Whoever makes it far is the
without
Super
the
Bowl.
deepest playoff run, you know.
Exactly, that's the Super Bowl. All right. So working towards wrapping up. Where can people find you?
Yeah.
Like on social, you mean?
Yeah, on social. Where can people find Borrowell?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, Borrowell, for sure. You can find us on the App Store or Play Store. Download the Borrowell app. You can go to our website as well.
Mhm.
And then, I'm on Instagram and Twitter, Eva_Toronto on Twitter. And I can't remember my Instagram handle, something like that on Instagram.
We'll link it. We'll link it for y'all.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So that wraps up the podcast. The hustle is what you can control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
And I'm Owen.
And I'm Eva.
And that's the show, y'all.
Bang, bang, guys.
Peace.
Have a great week.
HustleEverything.co for the merch.
I was going to ask about the merch. The merch is awesome.
Thank you
Like
very
it, you're
much.
feeling it? It's toasty.
Yes,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
send you
warm
one.
in here.
Yes.
Okay, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
for
awesome.
sure.
It's definitely warm. I'm always cold, so if I'm warm, it's really warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I'm a cold person, you know. My girl's from Jamaica, but so my house is usually hot. And
Yeah.
it's like a whole like. Thank you so much for listening. The conversation continues on our Instagram at 247hustler. We post very frequently, and be sure to check out our merch at hustleovereverything.co. We have some amazing sweaters, hats, mugs, and a lot more. Lastly, our Proud to Pay program is linked in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Talk to you next Monday. Peace.